Thank you for coming. Most of us start out in genealogy because we either heard something or we want to find something from our past. But most of us are probably self-taught and don't know where to start. So when you start, just be aware that you are going to be part of a jigsaw puzzle. Just like in life, your family is a jigsaw puzzle and you have to figure out where all the pieces fit. And it is a puzzle that you are never going to finish. Because just when you think you found the end, you're going to find something else. And you're going to go looking for that. So genealogy is the greatest jigsaw puzzle that you will never finish. And like most people, you are probably going to be very overwhelmed with everything that you see, everything that you find, and you're probably going to get a very large headache from so much information. Okay? Take it slow. Don't go too fast. Be methodical. Okay? Most of us don't know where to start. You're going to start at the beginning, which is really the end, because you're going to start with you. And you, at the present time, are the end of your family tree. So you start with what you know. Then you work to the things that you don't know, which are things from the past, things that you've heard in story that you're trying to find out if they are true. And then you put all your pieces together by doing it one step at a time. Do not try to jump ahead. If you jump ahead, you're going to miss something, and you're going to go down a rabbit hole. Those rabbit holes are fun, but those rabbit holes tend to lead you to a maze that you sometimes can't get out of. So what information do you know? Do you know who you are? Do you know where you were born? Do you know who your parents are? Your grandparents? Those are the types of things that you're going to look for. Up here, thankfully my parents are dead, so they will not be upset with me. This is my parents' wedding picture in 1967. Up the top is my great-great-grandfather that was washed overboard in 1919. Next to that is my great-great-great-grandmother, whom I never met, from Portugal. These are all pieces of information that are going to help you put your pieces together to form your family puzzle. So starting with what you know, who you know, and then go backwards. And then from there, my computer wants to work, you start with you. You start with pieces of information that you already know. You know your birthday. You know where you were born. You know who your parents are. There are documents in your home. There are pictures in your home. Okay? So my childhood home is up here on the left. I moved there when I was 14 months old. I left there when I was 32. It's kind of sad. The bottom one is my dad's childhood home. That's the church I was baptized in. That's my grandmother's house in Woburn that she grew up in. All of these are pieces of a puzzle that a lot of you don't know that you have. Just takes a little bit of time, a lot of patience, and some faith. Not just in what you're finding, but in yourself. Okay? Now there's going to be a lot of paper, so have some moisturizer on hand, because your hands are going to dry out. Have a little bit of time set aside, uninterrupted if you can, and sit down with what you find. You can find Bibles. You can find birth certificates, death certificates, marriage certificates. You can find family pictures of people you never knew. I have 7 boxes of such pictures. But there are people in your family that are waiting for you to find them. Okay? You can find all kinds of forms that you're going to need on the variety of websites: Family Search, Ancestry, Family Tree Magazine, and the National Archives. You also have some of those forms in your packets today. There's an individual group report, there's a family group sheet, census records, military records, vital records, cemetery logs, research checklists. The research checklist is going to become your best friend. What you should do is make one for every person that you are going to research. In doing so, you're going to have this list in front of you. Oh, okay, I have the birth certificate, check. Oh, I found the marriage certificate, check. I found them in this census, check. And you're going to be able to know without a doubt, okay, I've already found these things. I don't need to look for them again. You're going to make sure that you have good copies, and you're going to want to make sure you have good notes and citations so that you know where you found the items, and that someone after you can go back and get them. There's even more forms than people think. This is just a quick list of the types of forms that you're going to use. Okay. You can make up your own. You don't have to use a pre-printed form. The pre-printed forms will save you time, agony, and a headache, because the work is already done for you. The columns are there, the titles are there, you just have to fill in the information. Work smarter and not harder. So, when you are doing your research, work one individual at a time. If you try to work more than that, you're going to confuse your information. For each individual, you're going to always use their firm name. My name is Dorothy Marie Wilson Reagan. I go by D. You can put a nickname in. Just don't let that be what you're going to file that person as. Because 9 times out of 10, someone down the road after you isn't going to know that nickname. They're going to be looking for the full name of that person. For women, you're always going to record their maiden name. In some countries, all records for a woman are listed under her maiden name. She is only ever referred to in her married name in public. Everything is filed under her maiden name. Okay? The formats of your date are usually the day, the month, and the year. The United States is the only country that puts it month, day, year. For uniformity, if you have to search other countries, get accustomed to using this format of the date, because that's what you're going to see the most of. When you come to locations, try to be as specific as you can with the time frame that you are in. Should be city, county, state, country. But if you go back far enough, you're going to come to a location that wasn't the country that it is today. So that's another thing that you need to bear in mind when you are doing your research. Don't ever be afraid to stop if you come across something that doesn't make sense to you. Google's your friend. You can Google anything these days, okay? One of the best things to do if you are not sure is to look it up. Don't guess. Because if you put the wrong piece of information and forget to go back and change it, the next person that picks up your work is going to get very confused because they can't find that location. It's not much of work. Okay. There's going to be a lot of stuff that you're going to get. You're going to get paper. You're going to get photos. You're going to get real documents. You are going to get PDFs. You're going to get just about anything and everything that you can imagine as you go through your journey for genealogy. I would highly recommend that you try to figure out what is going to work best for you as far as organization. There are some people that are strictly paper. There are some people that are strictly computer and it's all digital. And then there are other people that do a mix. I'm still looking for mine. I have a combination of things and I haven't yet found what works for me. What works for me is not something that's going to possibly work for you and vice versa. There's no one system that is right and going to be a good fit for everyone. You have the method of paper files, where you file them by family, by individual within the family name or by location. Whatever it is that you do, make sure you follow it through for each branch that you are searching. If you're doing it in the digital format, it would be the same type of organization. There are different programs out there that will help you organize, or if you are somewhat techy, you can come up with your own formatting. But whatever it is that you do, please make sure that you are doing it the same for every branch, okay? Now, when you do your research, if you're going to a location that allows you to bring in an external hard drive or a thumb drive, make sure you take that with you and label it genealogy. Don't put anything else on that digital hard drive. It takes up a lot of space, and if you mix your medias for music with your genealogy, you're going to run out of space and not know it unless you are actively monitoring what you put on that drive. If you're doing paper files, you have the options of doing it in a filing cabinet or in binders. Again, it's up to you to figure out what's going to work best for you. You want to file by surname, then by the individual. You're going to make sure that whatever it is that you have for that person goes into that file. Once you do that and your checklist is full, you have the most complete picture of that individual from your family that you are ever going to get without having walked in their shoes. And don't think of just simple things. Newspapers. How many of you have boxes of clippings with nothing on it? No date, no title of the newspaper. Okay? I do. I have an entire box full. I've got 17 articles on my great-grandfather that got washed overboard. I never knew what paper it came from. I just found it 2 weeks ago. One of them. There's 16 more for me to find. Okay? So those are the types of things you need to figure out and work into your filing systems. Don't worry about what Lucy Bell is doing next door or what Joe Schmo is doing over here. You are an individual and you are the only person that's going to be able to come up with a system that works for you. When you do that, it's going to make whoever comes after you be very thankful and grateful, because they're going to be able to follow in your footsteps with what you have left behind. Now, I'm very sorry for the coloring on this one. This is my first attempt at PDF. I'm sorry, PowerPoint. These are some useful websites for you to use. There's Ancestry, Family Search, MyHeritage, National Archives, Find My Past, American Ancestors, Genealogy, newspapers.com, and Fold 3. Now, Ancestry.com has purchased newspapers.com and is affiliated with Fold 3. Now, the library here and all the ones in New Hampshire have an institutional membership to Ancestry.com. You can bring your laptop or your external hard drive or thumb drive, and you can do your research here. I'll give you a cheat. This is how I started. I would take my children to the library, and while they looked for books, because we were there 2 hours, I don't know how 2 boys can take 2 hours to pick out a book, but they did. But I was thankful because it allowed me to sit at the computer and do some research. Then I emailed myself whatever I found, so I could view it. If you have your portable hard drive or your thumb drive, you can save it to that drive. And when you get home, you can download it, and you have it. When you do this, you want to make sure that you take the citation with the document. The The citation is very important because you need to know where you got it so that you can go back and find it if you have to. Now, some of these are pay sites, some of these are not. FamilySearch.org has a plethora of documentation. They have stuff that is very similar to what Ancestry.com has. Some MyHeritage.com and Find My Past have. You are not going to be able to find one source digitally that is going to have everything you are looking for. Be sure to expand your horizon and check under every stone, or in this case, under every gigabyte. Okay? Some of the places you may have to visit in person because there is a statute on most public records. Typically, it is 74 to 75 years. Now, with that having been said, you may find records before that statute expires. I found a record for a couple that was married for 25 years, so that was well before the 74-year mark. Again, you just want to make sure you note and make good citation where you find your document, so if you have to go back, you know where to go. And all of these sites have a variety of different options. The best one I have found is free. Come to your library, use their ISP, bring your hard drive. But if you are lucky enough to be able to afford or get a membership to any one of these, utilize them to the best of your ability. American Ancestors has a plethora of information from most of the New England states, but it's not the only ones that they cover. There are things from other states in their collections. Review the collections before you do your searching. That way you know what you have to be able to search for. If there is nothing there, you can query them. They all have a contact that you can query and find out if they have records that are just not digitized yet. If that's the case, you might just have to take a little trip. It would be the same thing with the state and the National Archives, because not everything is digitized. There are a bunch of different softwares that you can use to organize what you have. I use 4. Okay? And I know it seems a little extreme, but the reason I use the 4 is that each of them has a different option that I liked, that I couldn't find in one of the others. Now, the software programs have evolved over the years. If you're using, say, Ancestry or Family Tree Maker, when you save your document to your tree, it gives you the citation that you need. So it'll be easy enough for you to go back and find what you found before, or someone to come in after you and say, oh, well, this is where they find it, so this is where they go, and then they can find it too. Roots Magic has a free version and a paid version. Family Tree Maker is a software program that you do have to purchase. Ancestral Plus does have a free version and a purchase version. Evidentia is an analysis program where you input information and it analyzes it to see what you're missing and give you a potential research plan to try to fill in your gaps. You can also get this through Family Tree Maker, Legacy, Roots Magic.
I have a quick question, because
Yes.
I've never heard of these. So you can download, like if you have a tree and Ancestry already done, you can transfer that information into Evidentia and they'll tell you what you're missing?
You can take some of your data. Some of it you do have to actually input physically. It won't take all of your information, but you can use most of your information. Okay. There's also Family Atlas, where you do have to download your GEDCOM, and it can plot a path for you to see the migration of your family tree. It'll give you the locations that your family members came from. Ancestral Quest is fairly simple to use. I don't use it as often as I do Legacy, Roots Magic, or Family Tree Maker. It can be a little bit cumbersome unless you buy the full version, and my husband has said no more. So I'm something that I have. And then it's simply looking to see what you are looking to get out of the software itself, and try to figure out how expansive you want to be. Do you want to color code your branches? Do you want to color code your counties? That type of thing. Each of these has, as I said, different options that made them appealing to me. But now I've been cut off, so I'm sucking it up and using what I have. And if you want something extremely simple, there's something called PAF. I'm not entirely sure that it is still available. It's a personal ancestral file, PAF. It is very basic. All you do is put in names, dates, places. That's it. You don't attach any documentation. You don't attach any photos. It's just simple data. If all you're looking for is a data trace, that's perfect. And you don't even have to download anything like that. You can actually do it in a Word document. You could do it in an Excel document. It depends on how tech savvy you might be and how good you are with those particular programs. But again, your personal choice. What works for me does not necessarily work for you, unless you have a spouse that will not cut you off for too many genealogy programs. So this is what my tree looks like on Ancestry and in Family Tree Maker. Family Tree Maker was originally started by Ancestry.com, and I think about 8 to 10 years ago, it was sold to Makia. And Makia has taken over all of the support and the restructuring or reboots for each different version that comes out. They've been fairly simple and pretty decent to work with. And when you have to do the upgrade, you don't have to buy the whole new program. You can purchase, usually for free, at least that's how I've done it for the past 3. And because you've purchased the original program, each upgrade that comes out, you can just automatically upgrade to it. You don't have to upgrade. If you're happy with what you have, keep it. It works for you. That's your best method. Don't try something just because you think you should. Make sure before you jump ship. Now, my tree goes back to the 1300s, courtesy of a relative that did research since he was 11 years old. I don't take his research as mine. He used to send me these family charts and tell me how he hunted. Okay. My tree doesn't look anything like his, though we have 70% the same family. I'm in my 50s. He was in his 70s. He's been at this a lot longer than I have. He's got a lot more people. Okay? This is a good way to start, but don't ever take somebody's genealogy research for your own. Do your due diligence. Do your own research. In Ancestry and with Family Tree Maker, you can add photos. As you can see, this is me with really short hair. And above that is my parents. The only people I will put photos of are deceased. I will never put a photo of another living being in my tree. I do that for privacy's sake, because I don't need people getting upset that their photo is out there. I will never put anything in my tree without permission from a living person. That's just good conscience. This is from Legacy. This is me and my husband, and above us is each of our parents. This is what they refer to as your family, and underneath that would be the children. Now, I am a second wife, so I will not list my husband's children under my name. They will always go under him and his first wife. And that is an option that not every computer program offers. Sometimes they will only let you list one spouse. Always review your software before you purchase so that you know the extent of what it will not do for you. This is my tree with Family Tree Maker. Family Tree Maker, okay? And it looks a little bit different than what it does with Ancestry, but it looks very similar to Ancestry. I have it landscaped versus virtual. And I don't have as many pictures in this one that are viewable in this format. That is my personal choice, so I can see more. And if you look in the upper right corner, you'll see color coding. That's one of the things that I really liked about this particular version of the program. I'm experimenting with it, but on a much smaller tree, so I can play with it. I don't have it on this one, but that's something that is good for your organizational portions if you're using it electronically. Now, every time you find something, celebrate it, because there are going to be times when you're not going to find what you're looking for. Okay. For 17 years, I've been looking for my grandparents' marriage certificate. The church can't find it. There is no record of them having gotten married in the church. I have their wedding invitation. I have their reception card. I know that they were married. The church cannot find the record. I had to go all the way to the state to find the record, and then I had to provide it to the church so that the church could record it. They got married in 1932. So since 1932, their marriage has not been on file with the Catholic Church. Now it is. They're both gone, but now it's recorded. Again, never take what you find as fact. Do your own research. You are your best advocate. You are your worst enemy. If you take someone else's work as yours, it can come back at you. And I can give you an example. I took a course through BU. I took one of their intensive 4-week genealogy classes. And we got to talking about the naturalization portion. My great-grandmother supposedly came from Portugal, and I wanted to find out more information. One of my classmates was so excited that she could help me. She found all this stuff online. It was my tree. She took my information and passed it as hers. Don't do that. Be ethical in your research. Be ethical in everything that you do. Every document that you handle, every photo that passes through your hands, be ethical in its treatment. Be gentle with it. You want to save it for the next person that comes behind you. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask questions. You're not the only ones doing this, and we aren't going to be the last ones to be doing this. This is a legacy that you get to hand down to someone in your family. It may not be your children, it may not be your grandchildren. It could be your great-great-grandchildren. This is a legacy that you get to hand down. Help those that come along beside you or behind you. Offer a helping hand. Don't be afraid to say, oh, you're on your own. Come over here. Let me see if I can help you if you hit a brick wall. That's why we're all here. We are all here to help one another and to explore and have fun with the past and with our family. Mentor someone. There are people that started just like us, have no clue what we're doing. We only learn by someone guiding. Be that person to someone else. Most of all, have fun with what you are doing. Don't begrudge the time that you spend. Celebrate that time. You're going to get to know people that lived before you. You're going to walk in their shoes vicariously through the history that you find. Take it, run with it. Just don't run with scissors. Okay? Have fun with what you're doing. Enjoy it. Have fun, celebrate, ask questions, dig deep, go into the roots of things. That's what we are. We are roots and we are branches. Fan out your tree, have some fun, and once you've decided where you're going to start, figure out which way you're going to go. Are you going to go through a maze of people thinking you might have the right one? Are you going to go down a rabbit's hole and find out you're following the wrong person? Be methodical, be truthful, be honest. Spend the time, give the effort. Those that come behind you will be extremely thankful for what you have done. And don't be afraid to make a mistake. I've made lots. Mistakes are how we learn. Mistakes are how we teach. Go hunting. Find someone from the past. Live through their eyes with what you find. Have some fun. That's all I have for you folks today. Any questions? Hold on, sir.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, she's gonna let you go first.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, when you were talking about don't trust everything online, I actually had a family, a related family, posted a picture of my grandmother, and it wasn't my grandmother. So you have to, because I knew my grandmother. So I just wanted to reinforce that. You really have to double check and triple check what you find. And I actually let this family know that that was not her. They wrote me back and said, yes, it was. So I don't know
I've
what they've
encountered
been
that as
drinking
well.
that day, but
I've encountered that as well. I have a uncle that was raised by his grandmother. He was born out of wedlock, and let's see, she would be my third cousin, I believe, twice removed. It was her daughter, and her husband was Canadian, and I found him on a tree. And I informed someone that this person that you have is not the son of, it is the grandson. And he wrote me back, the census says it's a son, so it's a son. I'm like, okay, I have his birth certificate and his death certificate. No, it's not. I'd be happy to share it with you. You're completely wrong. You haven't done your research correct, was my response. Don't take it personally. If you trust your research, trust your research. Make sure you back up your research to show why you're trusting it. Yes, ma'am.
In certain cases, let's say you're, I don't know, related to somebody from the Mayflower, and some of those are documented further back by genealogists from a long time ago. You know, like because they were famous people, they have been documented. Where would you find this? Would that be like the National Archives?
It could be a bunch of different places.
Okay,
It could be the National Archives, it could be the Mayflower Society itself,
okay.
it could be state and towns that you could find those records. There's never really one source for a record, okay? How many of you think you have your original birth certificate? You don't. What you have is a certified copy of your birth certificate. The state holds your original birth certificate. How many of you have a marriage certificate? And it's the original? Now, marriage certificates are very interesting because they were not always issued. You mostly find them in the church. Some would be bands, some would be announcements, okay? How many of you have ever heard of something called Gretna Green? Gretna Green. It's a place in Ireland where couples would go to elope. Okay? Not all of those marriages were recorded because they didn't want them recorded because they didn't want their families knowing. So you might have to dig a little deeper. Believe it or not, the United States does have a Gretna Green in every state. Documents are not always what you think they are. You have to look at them. You have to read them. Don't say, oh, this isn't the person I'm looking for. Oh, that's the wife. This is the husband. Oh, that's the marriage date. Oh, that's them. No. John Jones, Samuel Smith, how easy are they to find? Hence, don't just take something for what it looks like on face value. Dig into it. Take a big chunk out of it and really look at it. Dissect it if you have to. Make sure all of your pieces are going to fit your puzzle. Not every piece is going to be a perfect fit. Don't try and jam it in there and make it fit. If it doesn't fit, it's not supposed to be there. Yes, sir.
I just have one comment and a question, and that is in researching my own family tree, I found that sometimes there's variations in spelling, which can really mess things up. And some of it, I know just happened because basically you have an illiterate person telling their name to an official who writes it down as it's heard. And then it might be discovered later, oh, it should really be spelled this way, because that's sort of the official way. Sometimes it gets changed.
You can run into that. You can also run into a family living on the same street, father and sons, separate households, and they all spell it a different way. And they all think they're right. So that's where your dissection for every piece that you're looking at comes into play. Not everything is as it seems on the surface. Same as with people. We're all puzzle pieces. So you just have to look a little deeper. And some of them take the old world spelling versus the quote-unquote new world spelling. And you have people that are phonetic spellers, and they could have been taking the information down.
My question was, my understanding is that there's a difference between the Ancestry.com that you can get inside the library versus the one you get with a personal subscription,
Correct.
which supposedly has deeper levels of information. Is that true?
The library has an institutional membership. Institutional membership does get you access to a lot more records than what personal subscription does.
I understood it was reverse, but no.
No. The institutional memberships are, I don't want to say superior, but that's really the only word that actually fits it. Because it is an institution, they get a wider swath available to them. As a individual membership, you get access based on a tier. You can get records for the US, and then you can upgrade to an international. But it all depends on what you're looking for. Don't pay for the international until you jump the pond. And before you jump the pond, come to the library. Make sure that you have a reason to spend the money. Don't needlessly spend what you don't have, otherwise your spouse will cut you off. Okay? But take advantages to what is available to you here. The library has an amazing special collections room with a host of records. I've never seen some of them. I didn't even know they existed. But I'm also self-taught. And I did a whole lot wrong. I had to go back to the beginning and start again. Don't ever be afraid to do what's called the genealogy do-over. If any of you are online, look up Thomas McKenty. He has a workbook out there called the Genealogy Do-Over. It's extremely helpful if you've gone down a rabbit hole and you follow the wrong family. And that's going to happen, especially if you have patronymic naming and it's with siblings. You could have two brothers, patronymic naming, firstborn son, father's father, secondborn son, mother's father, firstborn daughter, father's mother, secondborn daughter, mother's mother. And if you have two brothers that are doing this to their children, you're going to have cousins with the same names. Make sure you're following the right family. The Genealogy Do-Over is a really good workbook. And basically, don't ignore the research that you've done. Go back and double check it. There's nothing that says that what you've done is wrong. There's nothing to say that what you've done is right. You just took a turn. It's okay to back up and start again. In fact, sometimes in doing that, you're going to find stuff that you missed before. Yes?
Like an ethics question. So I guess personally, I've always viewed work that my immediate family members have done on genealogy as like a base for my own work. But you're saying it's more ethical for each of us as individuals to pretty much start from square
No.
one.
You
Okay.
can take their work. Just don't take their work as your work. Do your due diligence and make sure that what they found is correct. A good genealogist will leave behind information that someone behind them will be able to come, pick it up and say, oh, this is where they found that piece of information. And you should be able to go right to that location and find that document. Or you could be like that girl from my class. I did all this research, look what I found. I even found your great uncle's picture. Really, that's amazing because I posted that 2 weeks ago. Okay? Yes?
Can I just add to that I have first cousins who have posted the wrong Samuel Haley. I mean, because I've re-verified and everything. So, and I did that because I had two first cousins that did all this research, and both of them had errors in it. And I'm not saying I was better than them, it's just that I did what you said. When I went looking, I'm going, this is not the same information that they found. So it happens all, and not intentionally, but it happened.
There are people on Family Tree that will just click and save, click and save, click and save. They don't do the research. Do yourself a favor, spend the time, do the research. Yes, Tyler?
I wanted to tell you, all of it. There's an example. My great-great-grandfather's name was George W. Dyer. So I started researching the Dyer line, and I found 2 George W. Dyers living in Massachusetts in towns that were side by side. And some records had one George W. living in one town, and the other George W. living in the other town. And then there were other times that they switched back. So I have nothing that gives me concrete as to which is the correct great-grandfather, because the George W. Dyer, there are 2 different people, but they switched towns back and forth in the records that I found. So you have to be, as Dee said, you gotta be really diligent. And sometimes you are researching the wrong one. But sometimes you have to research that one to find if you're gonna get the right one. And you know this one, and you found another one, you're like, which one is it?
And do yourself a favor if you come across that. Get yourself an Excel sheet, put both of them at the top, 2 different columns. Then go down and do a timeline for those people. You'll be amazed at what that points out to you. Yeah, sorry.
Would you mind speaking to the ethics and the process if you encounter, say, like an adopted ancestor?
Those are a little bit more difficult because you have a couple of different types of adoption depending on the time frame that you're looking at. You have closed or private, you have public, and then you have familial. There are some time frames where children, for a variety of different reasons, were passed to other family members to raise and considered adopted. But there's no formal paperwork to show it. Then you have private or closed adoptions where you potentially cannot access those records unless you are the adoptee or you have power of attorney for that adoptee. And not every state will release those records to the adoptee. Then you have public ones, where you can petition to the court to get a copy of the record. Again, if you find that, you have to do your due diligence, because not everything that's put in the record may be truthful. Women were thought of very poorly if they had a child out of wedlock. So a lot of times, they would give a false name. So it would just be, the ethical thing to do is your due diligence. And if that doesn't get you anywhere, the other option that you would have is DNA. I did not cover DNA because that is too broad of a topic to have. And if you're going to do the DNA, make sure that you read up on how it's done, and whatever company that you choose to go through, read the fine print, and make sure that that's something that you want to do.
I can answer your questions, but
Okay.
you answered my first one, which was regarding DNA.
Okay.
Second question is, what advice do you have to navigate through the National Archives in DC online?
Patience. Patience.
And a good glass of wine.
Or whiskey, whichever you choose.
I'll go for the whiskey.
Whiskey is my personal choice. Review whatever location you are going to, if it is an online database. Do yourself a favor, review what their contents are. Don't just dive in. You dive in, you're going into the deep end without a life preserver, and you are going to get lost. There's a lot of different databases out there. A lot of them are online. Some holdings are the same, some holdings are different. Do your homework before you start doing your research. Know what the collections are. Know what those collections have within them. Make yourself a research plan, and I will tell you, I never made a research plan until I had to, And you will be very thankful that you did, because the research plan is going to keep you on track. It's going to give you your objective. I am going to this location to search for this. By doing your homework on that archive, you're going to know what records you're looking for, rather than just flipping through screens. I know I need to go to this collection. And then within that collection, I need to go to this subheading. That and a lot of patience. And don't try to do it all in one sitting. Unless you have a really good bottle of whiskey. Hold on just a second, sheet before you.
I just wanted to comment about the adoption. I know I had an aunt who was adopted, family adoption. And I couldn't figure out, she was supposedly born in New Hampshire.
Okay.
No, she and her brother were born in Maine. I found that out 2 years before my uncle's wife died. Didn't know that. Did find her date of birth. Her parents got on really hard times. And here's my grandfather's oldest brother had stayed in Canada. He was successful, so they couldn't have children. They came down and she disappeared. You know, from here. It took me 3 years to find my great uncle's name. Why? Because he had 4 first names legally, and he used whichever one he wanted for whatever legal thing it was. George, Albert, and then the last name. I finally found one thing written in French. In Canada, they have contracts for marriage, and the father had to agree to the marriage to so on. And in there it said, my adopted daughter, Marie Blanche. That's the only piece of information that indicates that she was adopted to that family. Now, family lore said she was adopted, but that's the only piece that I got. But it took me 3 years to find her.
You will also.
And did I celebrate? Yes, I did.
Oh, good.
Yes, okay, I got her.
You will also find those in wills indicating that someone was adopted.
No, they didn't have a will.
So, I mean, there's a lot of different things to look for. You're never going to find everything you want. You're never going to, again, it's a jigsaw puzzle, and you're never going to finish it. Just when you think you're done, you're not. Because you're going to find somebody else to go looking for. Okay? But that's a huge, huge thing to find. That's awesome. Hold on, so.
You said if you put it down, then they play the go and ask for help.
Yep.
Where?
Where are you? Here you go. This is what we're here for. You can ask a historical society. You can sometimes ask some of the genealogical societies. This is why the public library and the Ranger chapter started this whole thing, because people were interested in doing genealogy. Back in the 1990s, genealogy was not a very big thing. It didn't start picking up until the late 90s, early 2000s. It has blown up that in probably out of the United States, 79% or more, there are people doing genealogy. Whether it's as a classroom project, wanting to join a genealogical society, or just to learn about their family history. It has blown up. That's why there are so many different websites for you to go to. That's why there are so many DNA sites for you to use. But the library is your #1 stop. Special collections. That's a lot of what special collections is genealogy.
What if you're in a different state? For example, we have family in Vermont, and we think in Vermont. We hit a little mark for, seems like forever, so what
contacted the Vermont Genealogy Society. He said, send me the research and $35. Did it? I said, you done a nice job.
That just means they
More
don't,
money then.
that just means that they probably couldn't find something. But that's not uncommon.
So where do I go from here?
Switch to a different person to start, leave that one alone for a little while, and then go back to him. By concentrating on the one person, you're forgetting everybody else over here, and he's taking up all your time. Leave him alone for a little while, let him stew.
20 years?
It took me a long time to find that little news article, one of 17. Okay. When I started because my grandfather told me we were related to Woodrow Wilson. I had yet to find it. But because of that, I started looking at things, and I thought I was going to get nowhere. I couldn't get past my great-grandparents on my dad's father's side. My grandfather was born in 1895. His mother died before he was a month old, his father before he was 2. He and his older brother were raised by their maternal grandparents, and they were all gone. I didn't think I was going to find anything. Then in 2016, I was gifted a Ancestry membership. That's how I connected with a cousin down in New York that I never even knew. His third great-grandmother was my great-grandmother's sister. And he'd been doing this research since he was 11 years old. He didn't even know what my grandmother's middle name was, just that it was the letter E. Have you ever used a message board? Okay. Where do you do your research?
Ancestry, basically.
Okay. Ancestry has message boards. They have them on Family Search as well. They are for specific areas. If you know where he's from, post it where. Okay. Don't be afraid to use social media. Okay. You'd be amazed at the connections that you can make. And it's not as horrifying as some people lead you to believe. Yes, Mrs.
A few years back, we had someone that did from the National Archives and gave a lecture. And, I mean, it was sort of clear, but is there anything new? Because that's the hardest site I always have to go on there, is because it's not like Google where you can just punch in, you know, John Smith, 1850, and it's going to give you information. I mean, you like to really chase it down and down and
You
down.
do, especially with the National Archives. Okay? Again, it boils down to the statute for public records. Okay? Typically, again, 74 years and a public record, quote unquote, becomes public. Okay? It's public if you go into the town, unless you have one that is abided by privacy laws, where you have to show your ID and prove why you're getting the record. Okay? But the National Archives is always adding records. It's a case that you have to just very patiently review the site and see what has been added, because it's not always clear. It's not. And sadly, that's the way it is for a lot of different things, especially in genealogy. Nothing is ever clear until you make it clear with your research. Yes.
Okay, so if, kind of going with the family adoption type thing, if you're doing the tree and you can find if one person was adopted, where do you put that? Do you put it under the original parent or do you put it under the adopted person?
Both. Why not do both? Because they are a member of both families. Okay, if the person is living, you can always ask them, where do you prefer to be? But the computer programs that I showed do give you options of listing step parent, biological parent, adopted child. okay? That's one of the things that comes in with the color coding, because I have 2 cousins that are adopted. And I've color coded them. And it's helped clearly identify biological lines. They are my cousins, despite the fact that my aunt and uncle didn't bear them, okay? I have 2 stepsons. They are no less than my child because I didn't birth them. I raised them, okay? Some people have that feeling for adopted parents. Some of them don't want anything. My husband also has 2 cousins that are adopted, their brother and sister. She's all in for trying to find her adopted parents, or her birth parents. He wants nothing whatsoever to do with them. He's like, they didn't want me then, why should I want them now? But that's his option. Her option is, I want to learn more. She has found that she is the oldest of all of the children. She has 3 sisters, 2 brothers, and 17 nieces and nephews. And she found them, I think, about 4 years ago, and she has met her birth mother, some of her siblings, and she even went to one of their weddings. So why not us both? Yes, ma'am.
Have you ever done any research down at the genealogy place in Boston?
Oh, New
New
England?
England?
No, I have not, only online.
Okay.
My work schedule has never allowed me to get down there, and on the days that I'm off, they're usually closed.
Now, online is a fee paid.
They do have, AmericanAncestors.org does have some free records, but there is a membership that you can get that will unlock a lot of them, and again, that's a tiered membership, and some of the higher tiers will give you a consult with a genealogist there.
Do you need to have a membership to go to the facility of Boston, do you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe to access some of their collections you do. I know that a lot of their policies have changed since COVID. That's something that you would want to look up online.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
One of the recent conferences here, I think it might just have been before this one, was given by a representative from the LDS
Yep.
Church and their Family History Center in Exeter.
Correct.
I wonder if you had any experience there and what that might be like if you did.
It's a very small room. There's only about 6 computers. The staff there is extremely helpful. At the time I did go, it was going to be at least 16 years. I was unemployed at the time, looking for something to fill my days. So I went to the Family History Center and did a little research. Their collection is absolutely amazing. And you can also access, I believe, Ancestry, all of the family search records. And they actually have people there that will help you. It's probably the next best thing to actually being at their library in Salt Lake. But I had a very pleasant experience with them. It's definitely a place that you should check out. Very much like the library here. That may be something for you for your history now. But don't be afraid to try something new, something you haven't done. It's in doing what we haven't done that we're going to find a few answers or a few breadcrumbs, as Cousin George used to say. And the breadcrumbs are going to be what lead to what you need to find. But be patient. Don't expect to find something like this. That's not how life works. And it's not how genealogy works. Genealogy is time, is patience, a lot of reading, and a lot of trying to make pieces fit. You're a piece of the puzzle. Find the rest of your pieces and make your picture.